Hello, Metalworks community. I'm just here in my studio. Liz wanted me to give you all a tour of my little area of my studio, or of our studio. So I thought I would start um, to do this in parts. So maybe we can do the larger studio at another time. All right. So the first things first, we have a door that kind of splits our spaces. There's a larger space over here. But my space is kind of in this closet, which I picked intentionally. I kind of like everything with it being within arm's reach. So just to start here at the bench, I built this kind of tool rack where you can see the pliers sit on top of this steel strip. And then there's a big piece of plywood with some holes in it with my mandrels and some files. And then the bottom shelf has a slit where all of my files fit in, and then a couple hooks for the jeweler's saw. On top of the bench, I have my microscope set up. This is a Meiji EMZ5 with a ring light on it, and then it kind of pivots over on top of my bench pin, which is here. So when I do my stone setting, I can kind of have everything right in front of me and push it out of the way when I don't need it. On top of the bench, I have a shelf of miscellaneous, some old pieces, and then these little drawers are filled with samples of all the workshops that I've taught over the years. So there's like a whole drawer of hinges and a whole drawer of riveting, and I try to keep a little organized. I keep my materials silver behind my bench so I can kind of see it and see how low those materials might be if I need to order more. Couple lights, couple task lamps here that kind of keep things nice and bright as I'm working, and I can kind of move it over my work area if I need to, or move it out of the way if I need to. I bought this kind of Fordham setup with this light that goes over the top of the bench, which is nice. I like kind of storing all of my bits here, and this tray is really the best part where I can kind of push things out of the way if I need to. I have a screen in the back, which is hooked up to like a little mini PC that I can do Netflix on if I have long nights in the studio or watch a tutorial video. To the right of the bench, I have a couple little handy blocks with all of my burrs and bits and bobs. You can kind of see a few things. Lots of soup cans, which I find handy. A lot of pre-packaged pieces, so these are all maybe inventory from the online shop that haven't sold yet, and they're just kind of sitting here ready to be sold. If anybody wants anything, arthurhash.com. A few things here at the bottom. Under the bench, I have a little piece of wood with the similar cleat that you see here with the GRS system, and then I've mounted those cleats here so I can put accessories on the wall, and just when I need them, I can lift them off and put them on the bench. To the right of the bench, I have this, I don't know what I call it, like thinking station, we'll say. It's a desk, short, shallow desk with a dry erase board mounted behind it, magnetic strip, and then some more parts and miscellaneous. But I like to do sketching here, sketch it out on the dry erase board, make myself notes for shows. I kind of like to keep things on these little trays, so if I'm working on a project, I can move the tray around. And then kind of keep things clutter-free on this little desk or bench space. Above this, again, these are all kind of supplies or consumables. So, this one has all of my little sanding discs and bits and bobs, and this one has kind of chains and findings, and then this one just kind of is a catch-all. Above that, I have all my enameling supplies. They're sort of in pseudo long-term storage, so I only do enamel. I try to enamel in bursts, so I don't, I kind of make a big mess, and the space is so small, I have to keep things tight. Vinyl cutter at the top here is some more storage. Again, here's the door to the larger space. To the right side of the studio is kind of where all the technology lives. Again, lots of shelves. It's kind of in a little bit of a disarray right now because I'm packing some stuff to take home to work on. So a lot of the things you see in boxes I'm going to take home with me so I can do some projects at home. In the kind of rear corner of the shop is the laser engraver and the 3D printer. And then underneath are these IKEA cabinets where I store all of my flat material for the laser cutter. So, one drawer might be cardboard, one drawer might be plexiglass, etc., etc. And then I can just quickly, if I want to cut something, I could take it out and put it on there. Right here, I kind of learned this from Haystack, where I have a keyboard on a swivel arm, so I can kind of get it out of the way and load things into the laser cutter. And then kind of, it's just taking, full advantage of all the space I have. And then a large kind of super cheap flat screen television that was gifted to me, truthfully. And then the exhaust system for the laser cutter, which goes straight outside. The 3D printer is a resin-based printer, which I really like. It is called a Frozen Frozen 4K. You can kind of see some of the rings and modeling that I do to print, and then this will get molded, and then I'm lucky to live very close to a race car casting, so I can just take those over to the casting company across the street, and they'll mold them and cast them for me. I have another kind of workstation here. This is more of an electronics workstation, so all of the Arduino stuff and soldering and circuit board material is all here. Above that is the parts washing station, so the resin parts that come off the printer have to be processed in alcohol and then cured with a UV light, and so that's all there with this kind of foil tube it's inside. Some miscellaneous hand tools and more magnetic bars holding tools that kind of, like the Allen wrenches, go with the 3D printer and so on and so on. A little scraper takes the parts off the thing, so it's all kind of within arm's reach again. These little LED shop lights are very handy. They were like $9 from Job Lots, so I just bought a whole bunch of them and kind of put them underneath the shelves here. If I back up a little bit, you can kind of see this is the Orion Welder along with the argon tank here, so I do a lot of my welding here. I try to keep the plastic bag on top so no dirt goes into the microscope, and if you've used this before you kind of know what it does, but it basically welds shapes together. So just in a quick nutshell, I usually will design something on the computer, laser cut acrylic dies to press metal into. You can kind of see them here, right? And then all that gets cut out, the metal gets cut out, and then I weld all of those parts together to kind of create these shapes like this. And then typically, I haven't had my kiln on in a while, but those will get enameled, and then they kind of look like this when they're all done. So up above, again, are more storage containers, art bins with just so many teaching samples. I'm gonna have to do a separate video on all of the crazy things coming out of those bins, so that maybe I'll save that for later. I try to keep everything kind of organized through labeling systems, hence the label maker. But anyway, so this is kind of, and then the cutting board here, which is like sort of where I work. So it's hard to see, but there's actually like a fume extractor behind the welder, so I can get kind of fumes out of the way. There's a polishing machine down there, which I hardly ever use, unless I'm doing a big polishing job. But yeah, and that's pretty much the tour. Oh, sorry, I skipped the jewel tool, which I use a lot for grinding enamel. And you can't see it, but under here I have a exhaust box which connects to the back of the jewel tool, and I had to actually 3D print a little collet, and then this gets, you just kind of shove it into the back of this, and it does like a little dust collection system, and you can turn it on with a little rheostat. But then I'll put like the diamond flaps on here so I can grind enamel, and then it gets all sucked up into the box. So photography equipment, sometimes we shoot work being made. I like to keep paper towels and gloves here, and then this kind of step trash can. So when I'm processing the parts from the 3D printer, I don't want to like get resin everywhere, so I can like pull this off and then take the gloves off and put them in the trash can without like touching anything else. So some resin for the 3D printing, some casting resin. There's some Gorilla Glue. I don't know why that's there. the IPA or isopropyl alcohol like you need to process the parts, so that cleans the excess uncured resin off. And then I usually keep this kind of vat here full of alcohol and then this magnetic stirrer to stir the parts, right? Yeah, and then when I'm done with that, I'll just let it evaporate, and then I usually dispose of it. What else? Oh yeah, sorry, dry erase board. So whenever I laser cut something and I find the ideal setting for the laser cut, I try to write it all down and then write the power settings and speed settings so I can adjust the laser cutter accordingly. Like every time I cut something new, I try to write it down. But above that, vinyl for the vinyl cutter. This is an enamel decal printer. This is a fire extinguisher. I try to keep this close just in case there's a flare-up, which there never is, but you know, just in case, to be safe. Also, everything is in this space is routed up to the Alexa, which turns the studio on and off. So when at the end of the day or right before I come, I can turn it on and warm everything up, or turn the pickle pot on before I get here. And I think that's it. So I hope you guys are staying safe and staying healthy, and I hope to see you all in person very soon.